I tried to run 70 miles over the course of the past week and it didn't exactly go to plan.
Does this count as one of my 5 a day?
In this video, I'm going to take you through exactly what I did for training over the course of the week, training with my new professional team setup, and I'm still really pinching myself when I say that. And you might be thinking,
but Philly, you're a marathon runner. Surely 70 miles per week isn't something that you try to do, you just do it.
yes, I do. However, I use the words try in this instance because I failed. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that later on, but crucially, I didn't actually make it to 70 miles, even though that's what was on the plan and that's what my coach had set me for this week of training. Now, in full marathon training, 10-ish months ago, I got all the way up to 85 miles per week, which does sound like a lot, but it's actually on the lower end for a marathon runner in the elite fields. I know women that are getting well up to over 100, 125 miles per week, but I'm gonna need to slowly work up to that volume because my legs would say a big fat no if I tried that too soon without gradually working my way up.
No, God!
So I've been running 60 to 70 miles a week for quite a while, and that's a really good place for me now because I'm just building that base to then be able to build on top of it once I get into marathon training very soon. And I should probably mention that this training week was from a few weeks back when I was still working as a civil servant and juggling, fitting in my training around my day job, which, whilst doable, it was a real challenge to fit everything in and just to devote enough time to training, but more importantly to recovery. So I'm excited to see how different this video might look in a few months' time once I've got used to whatever my new routine looks like. And before I get into the juicy details of the training week, I want to say a big thanks to Coros for sponsoring this week's video. So Monday is the only day of the week that we don't meet as a team to run, and when I say we, for those of you that don't know, I'm part of a professional running team called Team New Balance Manchester. And if you want to hear more about how I moved my life 200 miles up the country to join this very team, check out the video linked above. So the Monday was 7 miles, which I would usually do pre-breakfast just to get it out of the way, seeing as it's a really easy run. But this was the week that the UK went into a literal ice age, so I went after lunch in the hope that the ice pavements would have thawed. They hadn't. I also started this week of filming with a cracking start by forgetting to charge the GoPro, so here's the most accurate alternative visual that I could find. So these easy runs are the absolute bread and butter of my training. I go on and on about the 80-20 rule, and that is 80% easy running, 20% hard. So this is the 80, and for me, I typically stick between 7 to 8 minute miling for my easy runs, sometimes into the mid-8s if I'm feeling really tired or I'm just getting started with a run. And you'll see from the Coros data that I'm in roughly the right zone for an easy run at this pace, averaging 7:24 for the run and mostly staying in the aerobic endurance zone. And my heart rate is pretty happy in the 140s, aside from a few sneaky hills towards the end. After this run, I did 6 100-meter strides with a jog back recovery, and strides have really helped me just keep in touch with a bit of speed over the years, even during marathon training. And they're really useful for improving your running form as well. So highly recommend adding in a few strides after an easy run once a week if you don't do them already. Tuesday is our first workout day of the week here on the team, and this Tuesday was a killer track workout, which I was actually really excited for. So the session itself was a 2K rep with a lap jog recovery, then 10 400s off 75 seconds recovery, and then another 2K to close off. So it's like a 2K sandwich, if you like. The first 2K was controlled. We were running 80 seconds per lap. We all ran 6:44 and took turns at the front, which just helps when it's windy, just to share the harder job of leading a rep. Then we had 10 400s, which, don't get me wrong, they were great fun, but they did essentially ruin my final 2K rep, and I'll explain why. We started out at 75 seconds for the first few 400s, then gradually cut down each rep. I finished on a 71, but I'm pretty sure that Hannah and Kira, aka Absolute Speed Demons, were running well into the sub-70s by the end. I had to dig really deep just to hit the low 70s for the last few, and probably in hindsight should have stayed in the sort of 73 to 74 range. For the last 2K rep, I got absolutely left for dust. I think the idea was for this one to actually gradually pick up into it rather than sort of controlled metronomic laps of the first 2K. I, however, lost the ability to have any control over my legs. I'd almost emptied the tank trying to keep up for the 400s and managed to sandbag a 6:42 with the girls gapping me by about 80 metres. All in all, with warm-up and cool-down, I totaled 11.33 miles for Tuesday. Wednesday is another bread and butter day. Same easy run as Monday, but with the gym straight after this time. Ran a nice chilled 7 miles along the canal in 53:58, averaging 7:42 minute miling. A little bit slower thanks to the ice and bloody freezing temperatures. Then we hit up the gym for the first strength session of the week. And these are your classic runner's bodyweight exercises with a few weighted lifts in there as well. And this has been a massive area of growth for me just since joining the team, because I was super inconsistent with my gym work before, just because I'd rarely physically had the time to actually fit it into my week. So I'm looking forward to seeing how the gym gains improve my running times and hopefully just make me an all-round stronger runner. Thursday was a tough one, and I have to own up to the context behind that. We as elite athletes very rarely let our hair down, and even more rarely are we seen having an alcoholic beverage.
Hold up, wait a minute.
However, it was the week before Christmas, therefore we had our annual team Christmas dinner and the bar may or may not have been paid for. We actually had a very civilised Christmas dinner at a lovely restaurant, followed by a very uncivilised after party whereby we danced to cheesy disco music and behaved like teenagers. We get to do that pretty much once a year when there aren't any big races coming up in the next few months, so we make the most of it. So Thursday morning, after less than optimal sleep, I enjoyed a very gentle and absolutely freezing solo 6-mile run. I think it was -9 Celsius with a slightly sore head as well, but it was a run that was so cold, in fact, that I had frost on my eyelashes by the end of it. And I know some people in the States experience that pretty regularly, but that was a first for me. So 6.3 miles in 50 minutes and 57 seconds, 8:06 minute miling, a little bit slower, just thanks to the small headache. Now, before we get to the tail end of the week and what ultimately stopped my training in its tracks, I've been using the Coros Pace 2 for a good few months now, and I use it for all my runs, all my cross training, I wear it at the gym, literally everything. And it's provided me with some really useful insights into my training, but without being kind of bombarded by data overload. I really like the way that the data is displayed on the Coros Training Hub, which is the desktop site which shows all my training, and that's where all of the running data screens that you're seeing throughout this video are actually from. And it's a really useful resource for analysing your training and looking back over your progress. You can look at your running performance in the different heart rate zones over time and really see how training load is contributing to your overall fitness. And speaking of zones, the Coros has actually got to know my individual heart rate zones so well that I can actually rely on training by heart rate for threshold type work now, which is really handy when you live somewhere super hilly. So you can't always go by your usual threshold pace, which leads me nicely into Friday. Friday is our second workout day, and this Friday we hit up the Middlewood Way, which is a really nice, straight, flat path, absolutely perfect for threshold and tempo work. It was just me and Hannah on this day, and we both had a 45-minute progressive tempo. Here are my splits. As you can see, I started out at 6:14 for the first mile, which is more of a fast, sort of high steady for me rather than tempo, and then I gradually cut down before finishing in the 5:40s and rounding off with a nice clean 5:40, even on the ice. Did I mention that it was really icy at the moment? Anyway, it was a really good workout actually. I love these kind of sessions. The longer grind is absolutely my cup of tea. Adding in the warm-up and cool-down, I finished at 13.4 miles for the day. Saturday is almost a complete repeat of Wednesday, another bread and butter day, but I was due to run for 70 minutes instead of 50. However, the ice got so bad that we actually only managed 2 miles outside before we retreated indoors to finish the run on the treadmill. I could also really feel my calves absolutely screaming at me on the ice, so I think it was a wise choice, or maybe sign of an injury looming. I cut the run short and just did an hour because my right calf and ankle had gotten really quite tight, so just 8 miles of easy running, followed by the second strength session of the week. Different exercises to Wednesday. Our plan seems to rotate sort of every couple of weeks, so we mix up the exercises and just keep a good amount of variety in there. Sunday was where the 70-mile weekly total really fell out of reach. And it's not a huge deal in the grand scheme of things. I started Sunday with a total of 53.75 miles on the watch. So the 16-mile long run plus a few post-run strides was what should have taken me to 70 miles. However, the ice on the ground over the last few days and some tired lower limbs got the better of me. I went for a lovely, wet and still slippery run, but as the miles ticked by, my ankle and calf actually started to feel painful. I've learned over the years which pains I should and can run through and what pains actually really need me to ease off to stop them turning into full-blown injuries. When my right ankle started to get really quite stiff throughout the run, I cut the loop short and finished on 13 miles instead of 16, dragged my ego with me, kicking and screaming, and gave myself a lot of TLC when I got home. A hot bath followed by a bag of frozen peas on my ankle and some reinvigorated strength exercises implemented into my week the following week. It wasn't anything serious, luckily, and after a few days of cross-training, I'm actually back at my usual training volume. So all's good, but I'm absolutely chomping at the bit to get back up into those high teens for my long runs and even into the 20 milers after that, which shouldn't be too long away because I'm really excited to share with you all that I'm going to be starting training for my next marathon in the coming weeks. So the actual marathon training block itself doesn't start until February, but I'm going to be building a really solid base first. Out in Flagstaff, Arizona, I'm heading out there for an altitude training camp for the whole month of January at 7,000 feet of elevation. So I'm going to be documenting all of my training whilst I'm out there, showing you all what it's like to live and train with less oxygen. I can't wait. And I'll be able to share with you very soon exactly what marathon I'm training for, but I'm going to keep you guessing for now. If you've got any good guesses, let me know. So instead of 70 miles for the week, I ended up running 66.74 miles, which is still a really solid week's work, and I'll be able to build on that in a few weeks. And you'll have noticed as well that there are no double runs in this week. Double days are actually quite a regular occurrence in marathon training itself, sometimes mixing up with cross training and then running to save the legs a little bit, but loads of room to top up the volume and build the fitness with those. And hopefully I'll be consistently running in the 70s throughout January and beyond, and then be able to hit some of that higher mileage volume in the marathon block this time around compared to last year, so that I can target a faster marathon time and continue my journey securing that Olympic spot for Paris 2024 and or 2028 if that's the way it goes. And if you want to get a better understanding of my story and what's got me to where I am now, check out this video here where I talk about changing my life, quitting my job and focusing all in on my Olympic dream.